Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and we are jumping into the interludes of The Way of Kings, our read-through of The Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson's The Stormlight Archives. We have finished part 1, and we are getting into these interludes. Now, I will admit, these interludes are oftentimes confusing, and we don't really know how they connect to the ongoing story. These interludes between part 1 and part 2 are going to each be revolving around different characters. And the first one that we come to is named Ishikk. Ishikk, and he is a fisherman in the Purelakes. Now, if you have a physical copy of the book, or you were able to look up a map, let me show you the Purelakes. So the Purelakes, you see this body of water right there, that's the Purelakes. And all through the Purelakes, there are little towns, little villages, because the Purelakes are interesting. They're not like a normal lake, which is way deep, or even an ocean. And I'm trying to find the spot here where it says how deep they were. But these Purelakes were never more than 6 feet deep at its deepest. And most of the time we read that they only came up to a grown man's calf. And so Ishikk is a fisherman, and he fishes unique fish that have different abilities that can help. He makes the comment that he's very thankful he lives where he lives and doesn't live down where these massive storms are raging, throwing boulders everywhere. He says, it sounds terrible, right? And he hopes that they don't move up to him because those people down there are weird and they fight all the time. Well, Ishikk is unique. Again, he's a fisherman, and he has a sort of interesting relationship with the local restaurant owner. Her name is Mabe, and she would love for Ishikk to marry her. And Ishikk partially would be okay with that. He makes a lot of comments that you can't trap a fisherman, you can't take the fisherman out of the sea, but also makes some comments that he wouldn't mind if she caught him. So they have a little back and forth where she gives him free food, he brings her fish and different types of unique specimens that he will catch, and they sort of have a fun little dynamic. Well, what brings him back to the restaurant today is that a group of foreigners have come to visit. Now, these are foreigners that Ishikk knows, and they've actually enlisted his services to try to find someone. Well, he doesn't recognize necessarily where these people are from. He thinks he knows, but he'll admit that their accents are wrong, the language doesn't sound right, the facial structure, the actual eyes on some of these people don't look entirely right, but that's all he has to go on. So he decides that he knows where they're from. There were 3 of them. I'll just read it here for you. 2 were dark-skinned Makabaki, though they were the strangest Makabaki he'd ever seen. 1 was thick-limbed, where most of his kind were small and fine-boned, and he had a completely bald head. The other was taller, with short, dark hair, lean muscles, and broad shoulders. In his head, Ishikk called them Grump and Blunt, on account of their personality. So that's the first 2. The third one had light tan skin like an Alethi. He didn't seem quite right either, though. The eyes were the wrong shape, and his accent was certainly not Alethi. He spoke the Sile language worse than the other 2, and usually stayed quiet. He seemed thoughtful, though. Ishikk called him Thinker. And, it's interesting, these individuals, what they are there for. So again, they've met and they have enlisted Ishikk for 5 months at this point. And they're sort of frustrated that he's late in their meeting. And he sort of says, whoa, we said the day that we'd meet, and they seem to think that he should have been there earlier. Whatever, they kind of go back and forth. And they ask if he has his report ready. Now, what his report is he has been searching for someone whom this group of 3 desperately wants to find. And he lets him know that no one and none of the places that he has searched for knows where this individual is at. He says, I swear it. Ishikk said pointedly, may he watch over me, and this is one of the gods. It's interesting, Sanderson has a little unique religion of this group here. They actually worship the older brother, But they're afraid that the younger brother of the gods here, they're afraid that the younger brother will be jealous and will curse them. So everyone verbally says that they worship the younger brother, whereas reality, they worship the older. And that's just such a fun little thing, right? So he brings up the name of the younger brother, Ishikk, and described here as his younger spiteful brother. And he says, I swear it by Ishikk, may he watch over me and curse me as he pleases. I have looked diligently. No foreigner like this one you have mentioned. And he's going to describe this individual with his white hair, clever tongue, and arrow-like face has been seen. Grump says, well, he dyes his hair sometimes, and sometimes he'll wear disguises. I've asked, using the names you gave me, Ishikk says, nobody has seen him. Well, if you've read anything of this before, again, we're going through this like this is our first time. So all we know is that this individual with white hair, clever tongue, and arrow-like face, Ishikk does not know where he is at. So they're not pleased. They feel like he should have found them by now. Well, these three individuals sort of huddle together and speak in their own language. And they have a little conversation. We read that Ishikk listened with half an ear, trying to determine what language it was. He'd never really been good with other languages. And why did he need languages anyway? They didn't help him with fishing or even selling fish. And so they get up to leave, and he finally uses the individual's name, right? Let me read it here. He didn't bother wondering why they were looking for this Hoid, whoever he was. Foreigners were always looking for things they couldn't have. Ishikk sat back, dangling his toes in the water, which felt good. Well, they get up. They're going to head on out. The foreigners splash down into the Purelake. Grump was last. He seemed very dissatisfied. Where are you, roamer? What a fool's quest this is. Then he added in his own tongue, Alavanta Kamalu Kayana. He splashed after his companions. Well, you've got the fool part right, Ishikk said with a chuckle, turning in his own direction to go off and search for his traps. And that's where the first interlude ends. And again, we don't know anything about what we just read. All we know is that there's this individual, and he was hired to find this Hoid character. They said, be careful, he disguises himself, he dyes his hair, things of that nature, but he has to let him know, I haven't found him, I don't know what you're talking about, and they leave pretty disappointed. And that's where the interlude ends. So again, without spoiling too much, there's really nothing there that we need to know at this point for the main story, right? So this is one in which it is going to connect to the broader universe. And if this is the first book of Brandon Sanderson's in the Cosmere that you've read, you aren't even aware of that. As far as you're concerned, Roshar is the entirety of the story, and that's okay at this point. Continue to enjoy it and continue to really embrace Roshar and the experience and the story that we're about to have on this planet. But just know that there are other planets and that there are other characters from other stories who are going to be able to interact with one another. And Hoid is one of these characters, okay? So that's where we're going to end this part. Where I'm about to go is to the spoilers. And again, I'm not going to share everything, but just kind of let us know this is where we're going, okay? So if you haven't finished the Cosmere, if this is really the first foray into the Cosmere, just thank you for watching the video, and we'll catch you on the next one. If you have read a little bit, or you're just interested about who these three individuals are, let me answer that here. So ready? So here come the spoilers. These three individuals are known as world hoppers, and there are several different groups of world hoppers, and they range in differences of opinion as how much they should be interacting with different planets, all the way to where they should really just be observers. And that's actually going to be the group that is here talking to Ishikk. They are called the 17th Shard, okay? So these are agents of the 17th Shard. The reason why they're called the 17th Shard is because Adonalsium, the creator god, when he was destroyed, when he was killed, splintered into 16 other shards, the gods. And 16 aspects of his personality were splintered into different entities. And those shards are now taken up by different individuals across the Cosmere, and they demonstrate those personalities over their own world, sometimes even over multiple worlds. Well, the 17th Shard, that is named for a very particular reason, because they feel like they're outside of the 16 shards, right? They are pacifists. And the three individuals that we are meeting from the 17th Shard are, in fact, Galadon from Sel. We're going to meet him in Elantris, so I encourage you to read that book. Bayon from Taldane, that's going to be from White Sand. And then finally, Demu from Scadril. He is going to be one of Elend's generals. And these three are working together to try to track down Hoid, who again was at the death of Adonalsium at the Shattering. And we know he is our returning character, and he is interacting with different planets because, unlike the 17th Shard, he is not content to just sit idly by, because he knows that some of these shards are evil, are wicked, and that's because the personalities that they have brought upon themselves is either evil or cruel or hateful. Right? And so he needs to try to fight against these, and they're concerned that Hoid is going to have an adverse effect on the Cosmere. Right? Now, I will say Hoid is aware that they are searching for him, and he thinks it's terribly funny that he has tricked them into going up into this massive Purelake region to try to find him, right? They're going on a hunt, and he has put them on the wrong scent, right? And so actually some of these questions were answered, not in any book, but by Brandon Sanderson at a couple either book signings or different types of conferences like that, where he actually is going to give some answers to that. I wanted to read from you just kind of one of the questions that he got. And this is kind of where we sort of figure out who these three are. Because outside of his answering that question, we may have an indication on who one of them is, but not the other two. So let me just read you the question that someone asked him. In Way of Kings, there was an interlude. You've got the three guys that are looking for Hoid. They're in that crazy town with the water. Who are those guys, and are we going to see them again? Sanderson answers, so one is Captain Demu from Mistborn, one is Bayon from White Sand, and the other is Galadon from Elantris. The questioner asks the second question, are we going to see them again? And he says, yes, you'll see them again, and if you read really closely, you can pick out Galadon by the way he speaks in Dula. So if you watch for the quote in Dula, and the other two, you wouldn't be able to pick them out. They are chasing a false lead, which is very amusing to Hoid, and they think he's over there, right? And so again, this is a little bit of extra from Brandon Sanderson himself, as well as the interlude. So this is a little bit of a reward for those who have read Elantris, those who have read White Sand, certainly those who have read Mistborn, that these world hoppers, these members of the 17th Shard, are going to show up here. And just a little reminder that Hoid is a mover and a shaker in the Cosmere, and there are groups that would like for him to stop being so much of a mover and a shaker. So again, I hope if you were watching that, I'm sorry if that maybe burst a little bit of the bubbles, but that is a little bit more of the details surrounding the interlude of between part 1 and part 2 about Ishikk. And so thank you so much for watching. I hope you do like and subscribe. If you would, that would be a big help for the channel, continue to get the word out there. We'll continue on in future videos with the remaining interlude stories, and then we will jump into part 2 here before too long. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.